How about that team win? The team. How about that offense, that defense, that special team win? Corey pins him back. Corey pins him back. Safety next play by 91. Fellas, all we could do this week is get on an airplane and go 1-0. Right? That's all we could do. So we took care of business today. Guess what we got to do next week? Same thing. All right? That's the NFL, man. It comes at you every week. What we have to do in this room, we have to do this. We have to stay committed to getting better. Hey, it's September. We're not playing our best yet. But we have to stay committed to playing better as a team. But I'm proud of you guys for fighting. I'm proud of the offense. I'm proud of the defense. I'm proud of special teams, fellas, because at this point, we need everybody, and everybody showed up. And I appreciate you guys. Fellas, that's a hell of a team win on the road, AFC opponent. I'm proud of you guys. Team on three. 1, 2, 3.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Bearded Browns show today. It's been a year, guys, since we've been able to say we have a win. Not a whole year, but, you know, it's since last year. But we are here. We're going to talk about it. Angel, Chad, what is up, gentlemen?
How are you, sirs? I'm great. It's even better after a win where, you know, you're not jumping off the ledge or overreacting to everything.
No, that's still happening.
Yeah, I know, but in my world, in my head, I'm not overreacting to everything.
Yeah, it's easier to ignore this week.
Yeah.
Easier. I like that. It is a little bit easier.
Yeah, this was a quote unquote must win just for the fans. I think for the team it was not the most relevant win, but for the fans, this was a must win to keep like the hate and depression at bay.
Yeah, big win. 18-13. Browns beat the Kitty Cats down in North Carolina. The perfect storm.
Ow.
Oh, Chad did it. Chad did it.
Declawed.
I like how we used all of the things there.
All the pre-show puns.
Yeah, we got a lot. It's a huge win for the Browns. It's not over yet. There's still a lot of season left to play, gentlemen. We all know that. Obviously some big things happening in and around the league, and some good, some bad. Chad, you want to hit this off?
Sure. All right. So are we starting with the opening news?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so breaking news, I guess we'll call it. It's not the biggest news on the planet, but it's something.
Hit the button.
Oh, no. I got to do a lot for that.
So the Browns have signed Royce Freeman to the practice squad. I feel like a lot of Browns fans probably are not that familiar with him, but if you play fantasy football, you kind of probably are familiar with the name. It's not anything to get super excited about. He's been a mediocre running back throughout his career, and he's kind of in that era of his career where he's going to bounce around. The maybe more relevant news to Browns fans is that officially Kareem Hunt did not leave his visit with the Kansas City Chiefs without a contract, so he's signed with them. As everybody heard, with a stimulus factor, so he's going to be out for
a long time,
6 to 8 weeks probably. And they already had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the PUP list, so they got nobody right now except for the young kid Steele. So yeah, so that's that happened just maybe an hour or so before the show. I got both of those updates.
I just picked up Steele on possible waivers tomorrow on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I'm not sure Hunt. I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to throw him out there, but I'm not sure he's going to be a big snap carry guy this first week. Like they're going to have to go with the young kid for at least the time being. But I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this as the news gets around, because Browns fans are still a little bit obsessed with Kareem Hunt, and a lot of people were kind of shouting for him to come back. I get why the Browns did not do that in the offseason. They had Chubb coming back. They had 3 other running backs they think were probably better to move forward with than Kareem Hunt. And then now, you know, he was not on a roster. He was not a practice squad. He was never brought to a camp. But the Chiefs are familiar with him, and so are we. So those are the two options that made sense. And the Chiefs probably make more sense for him now because he's actually probably has a chance to be a lead back there for some portion of time. And here he's still going to probably be behind Ford and Foreman.
I'm not going to say I'm against it. I'm not for it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
I mean, I'm fine. I've always loved Kareem Hunt. I just think Browns fans had to kind of realize after last year, the guy averaged two something yards per carry, and he started losing yardage and getting negative runs for the first time. It's just he's not the impact player he used to be, so it's not a huge thing. I wish him the best. I like him. I hope he does well there, but it's not like a crazy miss because I don't think he can do more than what our running backs can do here, and we'll get to the running backs later. So, yeah, that's it for the news. Let's get into some of this recap.
The recap. We have a new segment of the show that we're going to have. Some of you may have heard about it earlier from Angel. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way we came up with that is Chad watched a bunch of Westerns over the summer, and we all agreed.
I watched like 15 spaghetti Westerns this summer for some reason. It was like once a week I would throw one on. They're all the same in case anyone was wondering.
Yes, but the good is that I'm actually feeling better other than Saturday. If you guys watched the show Saturday, I felt like I should have been hosting an R&B station, but here I am today with my normal voice back for the most part. We're ready to hit the good, bad, and the ugly. So the good, Deshaun showed up to a game where he was getting the ball out a little bit quicker, especially with the offensive line having his back. He was hit way less. I don't know if anybody's seen the video. What's his name? Kurt Warner released about Deshaun Watson's mishaps throughout the first game. It was 55 minutes of our lives that we'll never get back, but at the same time, it was very, very interesting and pointed out his flaws. And I don't know if Deshaun Watson video or not, but it helped. Whatever happened helped. I think Deshaun Watson showed up, got rid of the ball a lot quicker, and made some pretty decent plays happen. Yes, there were shorter plays, but we'll get to that eventually. The offensive line wasn't completely horrible. There was some other stuff that we're going to get to again about the offensive line, but overall, it's a win. A win is a win. This isn't college football, ladies and gentlemen. A win's a win. That's the only way to put it. The bad. Chad.
Yeah, I'm taking this one.
The bad, Chad.
The bad is the Browns' execution right now. The Browns had another terrible penalty-riddled game. And, it's not any one penalty that sticks out. It's just basically the fact that the Browns have penalties coming from all over the field. And in this game particularly, as opposed, like last game, they had a bunch of penalties, but last game was a disaster. Everything went wrong. This game was the kind of game where I look at the penalties and think there was 3 different times where the Browns have a chance to either just take this game away from the Jaguars or close it out late or, extend a lead, and a penalty or more than one penalty completely shot some kind of big play. There was that great, maybe Deontay Foreman's best run of the day got brought back for a penalty. They had multiple procedure penalties they're dealing with now. They had one drive where they had 3 penalties in a row when they were in the red, like in field goal range, and they walked themselves out of field goal range to 3rd and 36.
Yeah.
So overall for me, the bad is that the Browns at this point really need to clean up on both sides of the ball, their penalties. Right now, the Browns, for anybody who doesn't know, lead the league in penalties, which is bad enough, but it's not like they lead the league in penalties by a penalty. They are 5 penalties more than the second most penalized team in the league, which wouldn't sound crazy in week 10, but in week 2, that is a massive, massive amount of penalties. And again, penalties kill you. Last week we saw how many times they had to start in the red, where it's 1st and 15, 2nd and 14. But when it takes away first downs, when it takes away big plays that you really need, when it takes away trick plays, when it takes you out of field goal range, all on a team that you are outplaying pretty much in every realm of the game, and you really should have had a much stronger lead. Like, it just needs to be cleaned up, and I hope it is never the bad again.
I do want to say something really quick on that. 13 penalties for 100 yards. That's pretty much an automatic touchdown. My biggest thing is we talked about it in previous shows where we were more we were more disciplined.
Killer.
Last year we were more disciplined. This year we seem to be a little more careless. On pre-snap, especially, that seems to be the biggest problem. But we'll get to some more of that.
And I get it. I mean, when it comes to things like a holding penalty, I get it because there's holding on a lot of plays. And right now, with the offensive line struggles, some of the holding is probably just because they got beat. And they're like, well, he's either going to take a sack or we can hold and see if we get away with it. Not that that's good, but at least it's reasonable. These procedure penalties, pre-snap penalties, special teams penalties are killing them. And it needs to get cleaned up quick.
Angel.
What would help with those holding penalties if they actually call holding on Myles Garrett, but that's a different topic. The ugly for me, and a lot of people probably just, put their nose up at this and not care. But for me, I love this guy since we drafted him. I had a little soft spot from David Bell. This is the ugly. The ugly, not because he just had 3 receptions for 27 yards and he had a 79 PFF score, probably the best of his career so far. He was looking like he was about to position himself into the roster, maybe number 4 receiver, and then he gets hurt. And you're like, dang, he's hurt again. And then the next thing you hear the news that it is a broken hip and he is done for the year. That is the ugly for me because this dude seemed every time he put himself in the position to make the squad ultimately or solidify himself to be on the squad, something happens to him. And I'm afraid that we won't see him in a Browns uniform again.
That is a possibility.
Possible. Yeah, so he got put on IR, and for anybody that doesn't know, I guess the initial report was a hip dislocation, and there's no other details to go along with it, but I can just tell you from experience that a hip dislocation is when the ball of the hip actually pops out of the socket. And so they obviously reduce it, which means they pop it back in, or sometimes it does it on its own. But it is very hard for that to happen without you also tearing your labrum or straining a muscle or damaging something else. And so this was the injury that happened to Tua at the end of his college career. And it was a really grueling recovery for him. If anybody hasn't seen that Tua documentary, they go into it pretty deep. But also it's just, as he gets towards like later in his rookie contract, likely a really difficult recovery. I'm sure he'll go through it and he'll try to make his way back, but it takes away, much like we talked about with our linemen and Deshaun this offseason, it takes away his ability to progress and train and get better because he's spending his time just trying to get back to normal. And it really does kind of stink. I'm thinking probably 6 months plus of rehab for something like this.
Yeah,
I get it. It's ugly. I also thought the responses were ugly. I brought it up, and I'm not bringing it up on the show too. So many people online were like, "All right, David Bell's out. Now we can bring in my guy." And it's like, I get it, guys. Everybody wants to see Tillman do something useful. Which, by the way, if he's your guy, I'm sorry because he still has not shown me anything yet. So I'm not getting excited about him until he does something. A lot of people are excited about Woods. You guys know I really like that we held on to Woods. Thrash is a young player that's worth getting excited about. I just don't think the time to like exclamation point that your guy is getting a chance is like at the expense of possibly a 24-year-old kid's entire NFL career.
I agree with that.
I called a couple of people out, and it's just like I probably look at it a little bit more sensitively because of my profession, but it's like, dude, these kids like give their everything to try to like do something. And David Bell was showing up and now like who knows if he'll ever have a career. It's sad.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the offensive game plan and the execution. Obviously, the first quarter looked really well. We had a good drive going down, scored. That was amazing. It's something we haven't seen all year. Well, obviously 2 weeks in, but what is your guys' take on the first drive? Honestly, that's what I want to hear. Everybody, comment. What was your take on the first drive? Is that what you want to see all year? Obviously, going into not
A lot of
big
people
game,
don't.
Yeah,
A lot of
they
people don't. A lot
Yeah,
of
they
people are
went.
still pretty critical of it. I would say that's the kind of football I like. And I like when a team throws together a methodical drive. I think it drives the defense crazy. I think it can be repeated on defense after defense. I think it takes away the blitz. I think it fatigues the defense, and it also doesn't give them as much time to substitute. It looked in that first quarter, the first half altogether, and especially in that first drive, like this team was a completely different team than last week. Like they just executed so well. The play selection by Stefanski and Dorsey was the right fit for the Jaguars defense. I don't think people realize that the Panthers have a pretty good pass rushing duo,
Yep.
and we're still reeling with a tackle coming in off an injury, trying to get his legs under him again, and a tackle who should probably be our third stringer on the other side. And the fact that they were able to put that series of plays together throughout the first half was the most encouraging thing I've seen for the year, probably.
Yeah, I personally enjoyed it. I'm with Chad on that. I enjoyed the first drive. The first drive was 16 plays, 9 minutes long. Can you imagine being the Jaguars offense looking to get on the field, and for 9 minutes you're sitting there bored? So all that
Your
energy.
defense is already like getting that early fatigue.
Yeah.
It's like running up a hill at the
Yep.
first part of a several mile run. You're like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
could do this for the whole rest of the game.
So to me, I think if that is what they can recreate, it probably will be hard to recreate every game, but if they can really tap into that every game, you can control the game. You can dictate, because you go up 7-0, which Kevin doesn't get enough love for the first drive, either at the start of the game and coming into halftime. His first drives are always on point, which doesn't get talked enough about, but I enjoyed it. And when I saw that, and they're just taking their time going down the field, executing, playing to Watson's strengths, I was like, I think we're going to have a game here.
Yeah. We'll get to these comments here in a second. I was excited about the game. I know it's considered a weaker team, but I think it gave us more time to mesh as a team as well. Here comes the quarterback train, if you guys could hear that. We've already talked about Deshaun a little bit. But, yeah, I think seeing that team get out there, getting rid of the ball quicker, the line actually adjusted a little bit this week, especially giving not even Deshaun a little bit more time, but Deshaun himself looked a lot better and in the pocket, able to make plays happen quicker. That was the biggest thing for me after we watched that video last week. I'm like, all right, what is Deshaun going to do to switch that up? What is the line going to do to help them or help Deshaun in the backfield? And I was excited. The first half was a great first half. I have no issues with that. If we could play ball like that all year, but even better, because it's only going to get better every week, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's...
It at least has the potential to, right? Like, this is something you can build on.
Exactly.
Pretty plain and simple.
And while we were on the Deshaun subject, Angel, you have some facts here that are going to hopefully
encourage
calm down
people,
some
right?
stuff. Yeah.
So in this bigger scope, when you're looking at the game from a big scope, people are like, oh, he sucked. He did his numbers. But if you go from week to week, what we see is trend. You want him to trend up, right? He's not going to have, what you don't want him to do is trend up then trend down. It looks like an earthquake happening. So week 1, his numbers, while kept clean, like he had a clean pocket, was 19 for 30, 149 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Last week against the Jaguars, 2 for 19, 82 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The big key point there is no turnovers, right? When he's kept clean, he's able to see the field. He's able to make the right decision, the right read, dump it off if someone was covered. He kept it clean. Under pressure last week against Dallas, 5 for 15, 20 yards. While under pressure this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 10 for 15 and 104 yards. That's what he has to do every week. I think that's manageable. So I think he can do that every week because I think he played for him an average week. We said it before. If Watson could play average the first 4 or 5 games of the season, we will end up 4-1, 3-2 worst case. And if he plays like that the next couple of weeks, we're going to end up 4-1.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and this is a game. This is a game that I on the preseason prediction, I picked a lot of how I made those picks were based on my guess on the talent of the other team, because who knows like who's going to be healthy or injured at different points and what the weather will be like and all these factors. And before the game, I basically talked to the group, and I was like, I'm picking this as a game day loss because the team that played last week is going to get smoked by the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, that team wasn't out there because I do think last week's team does get smoked by the Jaguars. But like I said, they have defensive talent. Devin Lloyd is great. Josh Allen is an awesome pass rusher who had an awesome game, but
The other
we were
Josh
able to
Allen.
game plan around him. Other Josh Allen. Armstead, they have a good duo of pass rushers. They have a decent defensive line, and they have good linebackers that we took advantage of their secondary, frankly. And I think, like I said, this game plan of like quick timing passes to get the ball out of Watson's hands and build some momentum, build some chemistry with the receivers, get him confident was the perfect game plan to open up with, because I'm sure they watched the Cowboys film and were like, if we just get after them, they're done. And they didn't let that happen. So
We did do that in the first half. We kept up momentum.
Mhm.
I'm going to get some of these comments real quick. Sam says, the Browns win made my Monday morning hangover worth it. And I was sick, so I didn't drink at all. But yeah.
There's nothing worse than like getting a bunch of beers in you and then the Browns have either like a blowout or
They
like,
lose.
lost. The next day you're like, why do I
Right.
even do it?
You go to work, just, man, this sucks. But James Frank says, the good Watson played okay and seems to have a pretty good connection with Judy. Yes, we're going to get to that as well. The bad was the
Definitely
offense kind of got lost in the second half. The ugly was the penalties. So he gave us his good, bad, and ugly. That last play,
I like that actually.
yeah, that last play, Hudson missed the blocking assignment. If we made that, Watson would have hit a wide open Tillman, and he would have probably scored touchdown victory. One more comment.
If he would have held on to the ball. But yes, go ahead.
One more comment. The good, this is Sam's. The good was the Browns win. The bad was the penalties and shooting ourselves in the foot. The bad refs stopped the game 3 times. And at the end, Jacksonville had the ball with no timeouts, basically giving them free timeouts. Yes.
Yeah, and wasn't there was one I feel like where they stopped it for something, and I spent the time staring at the TV trying to figure out like why did they even like what are they reviewing? Is somebody hurt? Like what's happening? And it was just like a lull.
Chad, Angel, you both remember when we were talking about this game? Chad predicted us to possibly lose. Angel predicted a close win, and I predicted a nail biter, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Especially toward the end there when the refs were just like, we'll give you another chance. We'll give you another
I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there sick out of my mind, like miserable snot flowing out of my brain. I'm just like, no, don't do that. Like, please, just don't.
That's why I posted my preseason prediction, because I'm like, I'm sticking to this all year, but week to week, I think it'd be silly to say like, oh, I said that the Browns were gonna
So I
lose
guess
to the Ravens, and then we're playing them without Lamar. Of course, I'm gonna pick my team that week, right? But this week I was saying like I'm not gonna stick to a win with a team that played the way they played last week.
They did, man.
They have
They
no
looked
business
horrible.
being the Jaguars, but you guys are right. You had more faith that they would. I didn't think they could change that many things about this team that fast. And there's 2 things that we'll get into that did not change that need to change if we're going to win against good teams.
Facts.
But the execution of the offense, Deshaun's performance, the offensive line getting just enough of a push and then our defense coming out way more fired up, and we'll get into it in a minute. Maybe not throughout the whole game, but to start the game and to end the game, they looked like the defense we all were counting on last week. And although we talked last week that they weren't all that bad, we need them to be better for this team to win while they're getting the offense together. And this time they did that. So.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing. The old saying goes, defense wins championships. No, I'm not going to go that far. I will say defense can win you a game in today's NFL. It's a little bit different. We have
let's face it, offense wins championships too, but if you don't have your offense ticking, you need your defense to be a top 5 defense. And this week they were, and last week they were not. So, and then it didn't roll into the second half the way we had hoped. I think all of us were pretty disappointed the way they came out after they looked so crisp, so clean in the first half. And they were like, they were able to kind of do what they wanted. They ran the ball fairly well, and they had a great passing game. Deshaun looked good. And then the second half, the offense looked like, I don't want to say they took their foot off the gas. It looked more like they just kept shooting themselves in the foot, like Sam or whoever said. The penalties were a big part of why they had so much trouble there. But also that's where the defense came out with a little bit of a lull in the halftime, which I think was disappointing. They're the group that looked like they took their foot off the gas a little bit. And I don't know how you fix that other than just, making sure they remember that there's no time to take off in the NFL, because the Jaguars worked themselves right back into a game that looked like they had no shot at.
Heart attack.
Yeah. Oh, we're not called the cardiac kids for a reason. I mean, Frankie said, "What's up? What's up, Frankie?" He said, "Hey, you bearded hunks."
Yes.
Let's get on the subject of that. You guys notice as Chad's beard grows longer, the Browns get better. That could be an issue.
Well,
Chad?
I've got good news for them. It's going to continue growing for another
winning
15
streak.
weeks.
Winning streak.
Playoffs, plus the playoffs, which not everyone is excited about as I am. But yeah, 2 weeks in, we're working on it.
Yes.
You gotta get your beard to do this though.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple more weeks.
So obviously the Browns came out in the second half a little slow. We gave up momentum, and it was very visible and clear. The offense just kind of sunk, and I'm not going to blame that on a quarterback. I'm not going to blame that on the offensive line. There was a lot of dropped passes by certain people that were significant, like huge plays that were significant. Overall, the defense came out in the second half and just shut them down, which is awesome. I like seeing Trevor Lawrence pissed off, and that made me happy. I'm sure Angel made you happy. You're smiling. Chad is still like red in the face. He's like, man, we should not have won this game.
No, I think we should have won this game. In fact, after the first half, like I said, I was like, oh my gosh, they can't do anything against us, and we are just doing what we want. I really think we gave them a chance in the second half to get back in it in a game that they really were just, I don't even think they believed they could win after one half. So, and you guys all saw it. We don't have to break down that whole ending. I mean, it came down to crunch time, and the Browns made it an incredible stop and had an incredible punt after essentially a drive that they should have gotten things completed and couldn't. And then they made an incredible play in the end zone to get themselves a safety and the ball back. And then they still left a little too much time for the Jaguars, but in the end, they basically found a way to turn that game off. And it was just a full team effort at the end, which to me shows just how far they've come from the old days. It's still pushes that culture button. It still pushes the, you know how many Browns fans in the Browns backers bar were like, oh, here we go again. We're going to give them a shot and they're going to drive 99 yards and score. There's still that old belief. And then meanwhile, the Browns are like, no, they're not. Like, we're about to score actually on defense right now. Like, they're at a different place in their mentality than we are. They believe they're not all the way where they need to be yet. But we talk about how the Steelers win games because they literally don't believe they're going to lose, so they never quit, and they're opportunistic, and they find some ridiculous way to win a game that they're outmatched. And the Browns weren't outmatched this game, but they found a way to shut it down and not let the Jaguars even have a belief that they could be back in this. So
At Trevor Banks Stadium.
Yeah.
on the road, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are not really giving that the credit it deserves. Traveling on the road in the NFL is tough, and the Browns were underdogs. By the way, in case you saw the graphic, NFL, the 12 guys who picked for the NFL, 11 of them picked the Jaguars to win this game, I think.
Yeah.
And so obviously we were not a big favorite. So, and essentially we talked about Deshaun's performance on the offensive side. What did you guys think of the running back performances? Because I have mixed opinions.
Yeah, outside of that one run by Ford, I thought it was, you know, that's my. I'm a little concerned about it, but
Little meh.
yeah, I'm a little concerned about it, but I'm hoping as that line gets healthier, that will improve. But I'm a little iffy about it.
I'm not going to blame this one on the line.
Unfortunately, Pierre Strong is out. He's week to week for now, though, with a hamstring injury. So it's not really anything devastating yet. It could nag and linger for a while, but I think he's not a huge part of the offense yet. I don't know why so many Browns fans are depending on him. He's got to show me something first. But I'm with you. I don't think it was a crazy performance, but they kind of are who we thought they were. Ford is a little inconsistent, but has a little more big play potential. Foreman is more steady, more of a short yardage back. Again, we did have a maybe Foreman's best run come back on a penalty that didn't even affect the run, which is a bummer. But, I guess if their job is just to try to combine for 100 yards and hold the fort down until we get a little better on offense and until possibly Chubb comes back, they're doing that, but they're not doing much more yet.
Sam just said the exact same thing you did. The run game was trash, and anytime we seemed to get a decent run, the flag killed it. And again, those pre-snap penalties.
You need those chunk runs. Like we talked about it last week. Sure, you average 4 yards a carry, and that's pretty good, but you don't actually average 4 yards a carry. You get 2s and 3s, and it's that 10 and 15 yard burst that brings you back up, and you need those for your offensive momentum. Nothing worse than getting a 10-yard run for a first down, and then you blink, and now it's first or second and 15 instead of first and 10 down the field. So
it's a bummer. Actually, Angel, you texted me and said Jerome Ford was like averaging 10 yards a carry or something, and I was wondering
I was looking at the stat. I'm like, man, are any of these running backs having a good game? And I totally forgot about the run that he broke off, by the way.
Oh, that's right. You were in a corn maze. I forgot.
Yeah, I was in the middle of a corn.
On the side.
Yeah, I was in the middle of the corn maze, a corn maze with the family, and I'm like, man, Ford is averaging 9, and then I saw 40, 30 something. I'm like,
yeah, that adds up and adds to it quickly.
And their PFF scores fall in sync with that. They're in the Ford's in the low 60s, Deontay's in the high 50s. They're both capable of being better than that. So let's just hope as they get acclimated to this offense, much like the rest of the team, they just get better.
Yeah. So wide receivers, gentlemen. While it was a good game, it could have been better with the wide receivers and catching the ball rather than dropping it. Amari Cooper. Here, I have the stats here. 1 second. Let's see. Amari Cooper by far being the worst. He had
eye-opening.
Yeah, he had 8 targets with 3 receptions. If you guys were watching the game, you've seen again, week 1, dropped a huge touchdown pass that should have been a touchdown. Dropped another one this week, amongst others. You got your money, man.
Possibly the most disappointing player currently on the team.
Yeah.
That
what we
sat
expected
out.
from
That
him.
sat out. That's what pisses me off. He sat out during the
Bobby.
camp, dude, and that's what happens. I'm gonna get mad. I like
Worst
football.
case is
Listen,
worst case is he can get hurt like the other guys did.
listen. I liked
Sat
football
out.
when it wasn't about money. I liked football when people went out there and busted their ass to get a roster spot and played, not for money so much. Does that make sense to you guys? Because that right there is the biggest common denominator. You don't sit out because you're not going to get an extra $5 million, man. Go out there and play the sport you say you love. That's what you do. You go out there and you catch a freaking ball.
It bothers me more when they're under contract and they sit out because they just think they're worth more because you're getting paid for this year and you haven't done anything yet this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I don't know if that's what's causing it. Somebody had asked me, like, do you think the rumors of trade bothered him? Whatever it is, I don't expect it to be his continued performance. So I'm not ready to freak out.
Yeah.
But he's going to watch these 2 weeks of film and they're going to say, you're not getting it open as much. When you are, you're not making the catches. There's 2 huge plays for this team that could have been game changing that he dropped. Right now he has almost as many drops as he has catches, and that's
not good.
He's always been an inconsistent player. I don't think it's going to continue, but it is frustrating because he's the most veteran player. He's the leader on that team, and he's the one that stands out. Like we said, David Bell, 3 targets, 3 catches. I don't remember. I think Moore might have had a drop, but he also did make a couple big catches to at least balance it out. And then of course the best receiver on the team this week, surprisingly, was Jerry Jeudy, who looks like a very good wide receiver too. So if Amari can get his stuff together, all of a sudden we have the receiving core that the Browns envisioned when they gave him a 3-year extension without seeing him play here. He looked like exactly what they needed, and he actually looks like he has the best
Hands.
chemistry with I know, known for his drops. By the way, to everybody that
exactly. I was about to point that. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think we've talked about this in the past, but after his rookie year, Jerry Jeudy's drops were nothing crazier than the league average. They were just normal. But his rookie year, I think he dropped 10 passes, which is crazy.
Insane.
And then the next 2 years, I think he dropped 2 and 4, which is not crazy, especially when you look at the drops for this season alone. But yeah, he was catching the ball well. He ran good routes. He was getting open. And more than anything, on 2 plays, he scrambled very well with Watson. And it seems like he knows how to handle the type of quarterback that may bump out of the pocket and how to get himself open. And I had to wonder, as weird as it would sound, if a little bit of that could have come from playing with Russell Wilson, who has a tendency to do that for one season in Denver, because that is something Russ does every once in a while. He bursts out of the pocket when that's not the plan, and Jeudy was able to get over there.
Yeah, Judy's 2 games as a Brown. I mean, it's 8 catches, 98 yards, 1 touchdown, 14 targets. I mean, 5 receptions, 79.
Very high wide receiver 2 numbers, very good wide receiver 2 numbers.
What's great is that his success rate right now is 83%. I mean, you can list out anything you want, but if you're going to throw the ball to him, and most of that, the reason why that success rate is probably down too is because he did have a couple passes in the first game where Watson was throwing to row 3. But so that could be higher. But either way, he looks good receiver number 2, and he's trending on 1.
I saw the stat down here where you have him at 6.3 positive EPA, which a lot of people don't understand those stats. But essentially, you can have a negative EPA, you can kind of be 0, or you can have positive EPA. For Jerry Jeudy this early in his Browns career, being positive 6+ is really great. Essentially, as a unit, there's positive to see, so that's why I'm not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
But as a unit, the Browns, once again, just like in the penalty department, they lead the NFL in drops.
Yep.
And it is a bummer. The Browns right now are, how many drops do we have this season? I think we're averaging like
Enough.
5 per game. I think we have 10 drops already or something like that. And I want to say we're averaging like 5 per game.
Eight drops.
There's more than 8.
Okay,
Amari
so
Cooper
4.
himself's already got 8 drops.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says the Browns
Cooper has
currently
4.
go
Yeah,
continue.
Cooper has
I'll
4.
look.
We lead the NFL. Here's the moral of the story. We lead the NFL with 8 drops. The average NFL team drops about a pass and a half a game, under 1.5. It's actually 1.4. So that means a typical like average team, the worst will be higher, the best are 0. There's still some teams that have 0 drops for the whole season, and several that have 1 for the whole team in 2 games. But the middle number is about 2.8 drops, so about 3 drops, and the Browns have 8. So
Yeah, no, they have 10 drop passes.
And some
Okay,
of
I
them are
thought
even
so.
uncontested. That's what makes it
Yeah,
worse.
that's the
Yeah.
crazy part. Probably half of them, maybe 6 of those are uncontested. Yeah.
So yeah, all
Yeah,
right.
so you're looking at a normal team would have somewhere between 2 and 3 drops after 2 games. The Browns have 10, and the thing that makes it so crazy is the Browns don't even have these like boom or bust type receivers where you think you maybe get more drops. So yeah,
If-
that's got to get cleaned up, and it's got to get cleaned up quick.
Let's
If
do
you want
that,
to
'cause,
look at if you want to look at the encouraging perspective of it, Kansas City had the most drops last year and they won a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
let's hope. They also had Kadarius Toney, by the way, who I saw
Yeah.
a bunch
Oh.
of people super excited
Who
to
has that guy now?
get on the roster.
Take that.
So yeah,
I'll give you
let's-
something. Kadarius Toney can make plays. That's his role. Is he just drops too many passes and he's in the wrong place too often.
Let's move along. I look like Santa Claus because I'm red in the face right now talking about wide receiver drops.
Frustrating.
To put an icing on top of the cake last week, Alex Wright, safety. Boom. After Corey Bojorquez's beautiful punt, probably the punt of the year. I don't think any other punt's going to beat that this year. Pinned him back at the 2-yard line, and then Alex Wright, boom, safety. Just made the kitties meow.
I mean,
And
that's the punt you dream of, right? You're able to you're looking at this game as like, oh no, like we could have shut this down, but instead we get stalled on this drive. We have to punt from midfield, and they lands that on the 2. And what is so great is what we talked about earlier. This defense knows what they're capable of, and when they saw that ball go out of bounds, you have to imagine JOK, Garrett, Wright, the defensive lineman, Tomlinson, they must have just all looked at each other like, okay,
Let's go.
yeah,
I'm hungry. But
love
yeah,
that.
and it was a huge play by Alex, right? You can see in that play too, Garrett is trying to come around the edge, and I'm sure Trevor Lawrence is hyper aware of where he's at, and Alex Wright just comes bursting through.
Yeah.
And Lawrence has nowhere to go because Garrett is coming around the edge to his left side, and he just gets grabbed and thrown. And not only did that stop their initial comeback attempt, but given themselves 2 extra points plus the ball back, was able to burn off so much more time, make it so they couldn't have lost by a field goal. It just changed the game so much. And it was, I mean, I won't say I wasn't a little nervous, but at that point I was like, they're not going to give this game away. They're ready to go.
I was a little nervous watching the game in the cornfield with my family. So on the Saturday pregame show, we said that someone other than Miles needed to step up, and this game was that game. You had Jefferson with the sack, you had Wright with the sack, and you had Hicks with a sack. So if you can get sacks from other
Jefferson
people,
went in on that sack like he was on just the ultimate mission.
yeah, he was. But yeah, so that's encouraging to see because anyone other than Miles or even Miles and who's the other guy? Because he hasn't showed up yet. Who's the other guy?
Smith.
Oh, Smith.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
He hasn't shown up
And he
yet. so I
hasn't.
keep
And
on
you know
forgetting
what? And again, like Amari, like we've seen his history. I don't think he got 1 year older and he just fell off a cliff. I'm sure he's probably closer to declining than getting
Yeah.
better. But you expect he's going to have some games. So while he's not having them, other guys need to have them. And
Yeah,
like you
glad
just
they
said,
did.
we brought a lot of guys on this defensive line who could get after the passer. Not to mention, by the way, JOK had another terrific game.
6 tackles.
Wearing the cap.
Wearing the cap.
Listen,
Shout out
guys.
to him.
Wearing the cap.
Ready? Super Bowl! Super Browns!
Browns.
Yeah!
That is my favorite Cleveland cheer, and I'm so glad that got popular. We do that at the bar every week, and I love it.
So yeah, Corey Bojorquez, obviously MVP to all of Cleveland, and Dustin Hopkins. You guys cannot forget 10 points that guy brought us with a 53, a 38, a 44-yard field goal, and an extra point after Deshaun's touchdown.
Mega leg.
So one thing we do want to touch base with Dustin Hopkins, the real D-Hop, is the 50-yard line. I did not know, because we've covered the not the hybrid kickoff, but the
dynamic kickoff.
dynamic kickoff. So we've covered.
They've switched it,
We played like a half a show about this damn kickoff, right? And
we never really nailed every part of it down. And guess
Nope.
who else didn't?
Everybody.
so we found out
Apparently,
Sunday.
Dustin Hopkins.
So we found out Sunday, until the ball's actually in play, till the receiver or whatever the backs catch it, that Dustin Hopkins or any other kicker could not cross the 50-yard line. How many refs do you think
Yes,
actually
and by the
watched
way,
that?
if you watch the
Yeah.
like, all 22 recap, he almost does it again
Yeah,
on the very
I
next
did see that. I was like,
kickoff, and he like stops himself, and you're like, he's probably just so in sync with his head as I run, I kick, and then I just follow through. And there's been so many indications that the players are still not quite comfortable with this kickoff that I didn't want to hold that against him, especially like you mentioned on the notes here. He had 10 points. He made 3 field goals, a 38, a 44, and a 53, all from good yardage, and he made his extra points. So he had a good game, but like it is just another thing about this kickoff of like guys just aren't comfortable with it yet. There's so many procedure penalties that I saw multiple this weekend again, and the one on the kicker is more of I'm sure he knew that rule. I'm sure it was taught, but he's probably just so used to that not being the case because he's a veteran kicker. He's been in the league for years. And so he's probably just a natural motion is to kick and then kind of start jogging down towards the action. And it's it's a shame.
Yeah.
So, but overall, I mean, I'd say we have to give the special teams a pretty good grade. Dustin Hopkins made his kicks. Corey maybe made one of the better punts we'll see this entire year, not only from him, but from any punter. Punter's dream of being able to land the ball on that yard line and knock it out of bounds so that nobody even has to run down and grab it. So overall, well done special
As
teams.
sick-
Huge jump from last week.
as sick as I
Huge.
was, I jumped out of bed and I was like, F yeah. Like, I was so excited.
We
that
went
the
crazy.
safety-
Cleveland, I swear Cleveland is more obsessed with special teamers than anywhere I've ever interacted with. But like you should have heard the Browns bar, when this ball hit and flew out of bounds. Everybody kind of peeked around for a penalty for a second, and people just went nuts. They're like, "Oh my god!" Like, because not only, like I said, did you just nail a kick? Not only did you nail a kick, you know what this defense is capable of in that situation, and so do they. And so that was a game-changing play.
Well, I
by
mean,
a punter, which doesn't happen.
it's not our fault. For 10 years, our best team players were special teamers from Dawson to Cribbs. I mean, it's not our fault. That's
We
why.
had great punt. We've had a couple great punters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great
we've had some
punters.
guys.
Yes. So one other thing that we got a couple minutes left, guys, about 10, 15 minutes. It was a huge week for the Cleveland Browns. Clearly, we need to roll this over into next week. There's some media take breakdowns that we want to go over with. And I don't want to touch base
Can
with
we
this
hit
too
one?
long.
Can we hit one thing before we go to the media take?
Absolutely.
The only other thing I wanted to make sure we mentioned, because I've been hearing a ton about it, and fans are on both sides of it, and it's a Deshaun thing. it's a lineman thing, it's a Stefanski thing, and everybody's mad at somebody about it. But that final bootleg play of the game where Deshaun rolls out, I mean, everything on that play went wrong. Fans were mad that they didn't just call a run. I'm not, because I get what they were trying to do there. But the one thing you have to know is if you're going to pass in a position, I like the aggressiveness. I'm never a run, get 2 yards, and just punt, because then if the team does come back on you, it's like, well, you almost deserve that because you didn't even try to score on them or get the first down. You just basically looked to burn the clock, and you were still going to leave them a minute and 15 seconds or whatever it was.
Angel is chewing on a $100 pen. Can you please let him go ahead, Angel, really quick?
No, I agree with I'm agreeing with Chad because he's spot on with it. Also, too, if Hudson would have blocked, the play would have worked, right? So people are criticizing it. It's like it's hindsight. Yeah, it's hindsight. Your take is hindsight. If the block is held, if Hudson does his job, Tillman's either at the 5 or 10 or 5, or a touchdown. Play works. It's kind of like what happened last night with the Philadelphia. People are like, I can't believe the coach did that. It worked.
He catches that ball. It's a touchdown.
He catches the ball. It's a touchdown.
Perfect.
Yes, it's crazy. So the fans that criticize that, to me, you don't know football if you're criticizing that play.
When you take a risk, you have to execute. You cannot make a small mistake. And so there was multiple mistakes on this, though. The two biggest mistakes are, one, Hudson completely blew that block. Yep. All you have to do on that play, I mean, this isn't even necessarily a passing play. It's a planned rollout, which means if Hudson holds that block, what probably happens is Deshaun runs around the corner unless somebody is wide open and it's like, oh my God, we can score on these guys. He just runs, and maybe he gets 2, 5, 10 yards, and then he slides and the clock keeps running. So, like, the idea wasn't a throw. The idea was it's basically can be a run for Deshaun, and he can throw it if he needs to. And I don't know if everybody saw the picture I posted on Instagram. It was wide open. Like, he started to turn that corner, and the receiver had a open field to the end zone, and he had 5 yards on the defender. They all bit on that play. And so if Hudson holds his block, Deshaun probably does throw it, which is why he was thinking about it. And again, I get on the throw, Deshaun just needs to know better. Coach said it right after the game.
Yeah.
I was mad at him for making the decision to throw it, because he should have just said, I'm going to take the hit, or I'm going to go down. I'm just going to kneel. And maybe you get like a late hit or something if you just slide or kneel.
James just
said
also Tillman would have been everyone's favorite wide receiver after that play.
I mean, he was wide open.
They would have been saying, cut Cooper.
Yeah. And the other thing, though, too, is like Watson did make a mistake. I had to wonder in my head if in the moment he was thinking like just a little panicked, but also like they were almost in field goal range. He might have thought like, I got to get rid of this ball so we still have a chance to kick, but they were never going to kick.
Yeah.
But he should have just went down. But again, a lot of things went wrong, but the play call was not the wrong play call. It just Sean should have either went down or Hudson should have made that block, and then you roll. And imagine you make that pass, you score a touchdown, or you take it down to like the 20-yard line. Not only is that game over on time, but you tag onto the score. It's done.
Yeah.
And that would have looked good on everybody, the whole team.
And that with this, there's a lot of positive things like that fans were missing, because if you would look at the all 22, you would see Kevin is calling great plays. It's just not being executed, whether it's for the line, whether because Deshaun's still catching up on gameplay or making the wrong decision right now. Maybe later on in the year that play gets called again and it's a touchdown. So let's feel encouraged about that.
I'm gonna throw something out here real quick. After week 2, 3 things I've noticed about Deshaun Watson fans, really quick. Either you hate the guy because of his past, either you like the guy when he's really, really good and showing up to play a game of football, or you like him only when he's good or bad. And then you throw things in his face. So there are 3 types of Deshaun Watson fans.
Yeah.
As Cleveland fans right now, you either
not many defenders.
Right.
Yeah.
Not many like Baker style, like staunch defenders. Like he had a bad game, he's great still, whatever. There's just not that version. It's just either I like him when he's good, I hate him when he's bad, or I hate him all the time. And it's fine. Like I said, I'll never criticize that. If you hate him, fine.
That's fine.
We don't need to hear about it anymore, by the way, though. But and again, that goes right into that criticism from Jason Lloyd.
Yeah, being a game manager. And you know what? I like the outcome of being a game manager because you play the clock, you play the ball as you should, you run the clock, you win a game. You waste clock and time management well, you're good.
And they say stuff like, "Oh, of course, first of all, I think that's the worst time. Like, this is a bad time to throw out Deshaun Watson's contract number for 2 reasons. One, we all freaking know Deshaun Watson's contract number. He made $230 million. He gets paid $46 million a year. If you don't know that, memorize those numbers because people are going to bring them up forever. But the reality is, like, if there's ever a time we don't need to hear about it, it's when he shows massive improvement and then we win a game because of it. Why would you take that ending of that game as a chance to tweet, "Oh, I guess they're paying $46 million a year for a game manager"?
I saw that.
And then the second part of that and why I hate it is because you know what? If Deshaun played like that first quarter style of football the whole time, first of all, we would take those wins and we should.
Yep.
It doesn't matter at this point whether he lives up to that contract because it's guaranteed and he's going to get paid it. So he might as well get the best out of him we can. But you know what was not a game manager? Those 2 giant plays where he miraculously scrambled out of a completely collapsing pocket, and then on both of them found Jerry Jeudy. And I think he also had one where he was able to scramble himself for a pretty good amount of yardage, but especially on those 2 where he was able to run down the sidelines and find Jerry Jeudy. If you can mix Deshaun Watson game managing, playing tempo, making short 5 to 9 yard passes, and has the ability to do that on a broken play, that's not what a game manager does. The difference between him and a game manager is a game manager can only do the first part. You should be encouraging him to do the first part because if you want him to play successfully for years, that's the way you do it. You could have called Drew Brees or Tom Brady a game manager if that's going to be your definition, is they play in rhythm and they complete passes. But his ability to make a big play when they needed a big play was what makes that comment seem so stupid to me. Like, that's not a game manager play.
Well, that could bring us into Jay Glazer's "My Bad" report, correct?
Yeah.
Did you guys see that? So basically, right as the game is starting, also not a great time to make this announcement, but I get they need to beat the news cycle. Jay Glazer announces like the Browns have redone Deshaun Watson's contract and taken out a bunch of protections for him as they renegotiated his deal for this year to change his guaranteed money. And then, so people are talking about, oh, he's about to get suspended. All this stuff's happening. It kind of riles everybody up. Then today he comes out and he goes, actually, it turns out that those were never taken out. They were just only in his 22 and 23 contract.
Oops.
They were actually never in his 24, 25, and 26 year contract. So he's like, it turns out there was a missed report by me. My bad. And I'm like, okay.
He's one of
glad
those
you're
three fans.
He should go on live TV and say it. Why are you tweeting?
Yes.
Like you said it on
Tweet
live
it like,
TV. I'm a person
quote,
that
"My bad."
if you offend me in public,
That's why
you
I
should
did that.
apologize in public. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
Which one of those 3 fans that I pointed out as Deshaun Watson fans do you think he is? The apologist.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
And I get it. He's like, I'm like I said, I'm glad he was like, oops, by the way, that report I made was a mistake. But these reporters, he's a journalist. This isn't like us just talking on Twitter or on the radio. He's an insider. Like, you can't get that report wrong and then report it. That's why they tell journalists you need multiple sources. You need to confirm it. Don't just spit it out there as soon as you hear it. Make sure you're right. But they're in such a race to get it out there that they're just okay being wrong. But the bothered part for me was what you guys said, like, just tweeting "my bad, I was wrong on that report" is not appropriate given the time he tweeted it and the shenanigans that it causes.
I agree. All right, gentlemen, we got to move on. Let's get into the AFC North. We all know that it's one of the toughest divisions in the league, right? What
maybe.
the hell is going
We'll
on
see.
with the AFC North? Everybody had the Pittsburgh Steelers finishing dead last. The Browns were third. And then you got the 2 teams that are 0-2 as of right now, Cincinnati Bengals and the damn Ravens. So, fun fact, this is the 5th time that the Ravens, in their 29-year existence, they have started an 0-2 season, and previous 4 instances where Baltimore did not make the playoffs. So in 99, finished 8-8. 2002 finished 7-9. 2005 finished 6-10. 2015 5-11. Could this be another one of those 1 years that they're going to possibly pull something out of their ass? And
I hope so.
Yeah,
say
I'm
you hope so?
hoping. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Oh,
no,
wait,
I thought you
pull,
meant one of those
I
years
thought
they
you
don't make
meant,
it.
yeah. I thought you said,
You
yeah.
switched it on us right at the
Yeah.
end.
I thought you said I thought you meant like lay an egg, but no, they won't. They won't.
I hope so,
Hopefully not.
yes.
I mean, honestly, though, my problem is like, I get that stat. Usually, the thing is, if you start 0-2, you might be a 5-win or less team. Those typically start 0-2, but I just don't see the Ravens as that team. And what makes it even tougher is both of their losses. One was to a team that people don't have a lot of respect for, but you should pay attention to all the Browns fans who are like, "Well, we'll kill the Raiders." Well, they just beat the Ravens, so
Not what Gart
let's
Minshew, man.
let's go into that game thinking that that's a team that can beat you. But the Ravens also, that first game, like, the Chiefs are a Super Bowl team. We all know it. They came a toe away from beating them. So I still believe that's the team we'll see for the next 15 games. And do we think they can win 10 out of 15? I still do. I hope they don't, but I still believe they're a team that could win 10 out of the next 15. And that
Right.
puts them in the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm going to go backwards here, gentlemen. I don't know who came up with this in the notes, but the Bengals got chiefed.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Who did that?
I mean, they did. That was
wasn't
me.
me.
I just think the
That was
Chiefs
Ted.
did exactly to the Bengals what they did to the Ravens. They won a game where it clearly seemed like they should have lost the game. The Chiefs just have an annoying way of being like, the Chiefs could easily be 0-2. They should have probably lost. They were a toe away from being the Ravens, and they didn't even do that. It's just a person took a millimeter too far step and landed out of bounds, or else they probably get that win. And then if nothing else, they really bring it close. And then the Bengals had them.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up 1 point. 1 point really quick. Sorry. Anybody saw that play at the end? If that was on our team, if that was on the Browns, it would have. You'd call pass interference. We'd be bitching if we didn't get called pass interference on that
it was
call.
Pass interference.
It
What made me feel better about that? Because a lot of people are going to say like, "Oh, the refs gave it to the Chiefs." But what made me feel a little bit better about that was the play before that. The Chiefs got the first down and actually got it pulled back on a call. So it was like, okay, so that would have also like gotten them the first down, and they could have kept rolling. So it kind of went both ways.
And to be honest, Chase is the reason why they lost that game. They were driving.
Oh yeah.
Burrow was feeling himself. He's thinking like, I'm about to finally beat him, right? I'm about to beat him in a close game.
Mm-hmm.
And Chase just lost his cool, and that just killed that drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Chase, especially coming from Chase, like we talked about, another guy that had been sitting out a lot of time. It takes away a little bit of your patience with the fans when you sit out for a contract or money, and then you make mistakes. You get a lot less forgiveness, and I think the Bengals fans are probably pretty irritated with him today.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's talk about the last dumb team.
Let's say the crap is for last. Pittsburgh and their culture. Will this continue with Mike Tomlin at the helm and Justin Fields as a quarterback? I'm gonna blow through this, guys. No.
Yes.
Shut up, Angel. No.
Yes.
I mean,
No.
I think it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Justin
Yeah.
Fields, as much as we kind of like rip on him, he's better than Pickett. He's way better than Rudolph.
Yeah. Yes.
and
I agree.
whatever his name was, Duck Hodges. But as long as Tomlin is there,
Yes.
and they have some continuity in their players, I think this culture will stay. And like we talked about earlier, we don't have to get into it too deep. They will always find a way to win if they're in the game because they believe they're going to, and they never quit. Most teams in their situation going 2 games in a row and scoring 1 total touchdown would probably just at a certain point, their motor would turn off a little, but Pittsburgh's does not, and I hate it. And I even hate saying it because Pittsburgh Steelers are always coming at us on social So I hate to give the team any credit, but it's the one thing that they've consistently have is culture, and it takes forever to build, and they've had it for decades, and it
Yep.
sucks.
I feel better now.
That is why I agree. That's why I saw them play at Atlanta last week, the first week, and I said to myself, I said in the text, I'm like, man, if Justin can play like he played against mistake-free, meaning Pittsburgh's gonna be crazy on that defense, and now they'll probably play better. They got better opponents coming up, so they'll be tested for sure.
Right.
But if that defense can hold them to 10, 13 points, they can win every game.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Because they have the field goal kicker that can do 60 yards. I mean, so they can win 15 to 13 every game.
Yeah.
Hey,
frustrating. I still think we can take them. They at least they're not. Like, all three of these teams, as good as I think all three of them are,
I agree.
All three of them have shown some flaws this season, some capacity to lose, and it makes me feel like, okay, we're still in this division. Let's go.
Yeah, and
Let's
you know what?
Go.
What we got to worry about next week? I'm not even going to say worry. This is our last home game for 2 games. We got the Giants, and then we're away for 2 games. But the Giants just got beat by the Commanders 21-18, and I think we're going to pull off a home win. And then we got 2 away games, and
Can I give an interesting fact? Can I give an interesting fact about this?
Absolutely. You actually show your shirt to everybody.
I love it. Oh yeah, check it out. Low Country Browns backers.
Yeah.
That was a fun getaway weekend. So, the Commanders score 21 points.
Field goals.
The Giants score 18 points.
Field goals.
I don't know if you watched the game. One of these teams scored 3 touchdowns. Surprise, it was not the Commanders. The Giants scored 3 touchdowns and ended up only getting 6 points on each of them. So they ended up with 18 points. And then in an unbelievable turn of events, the Commanders kicked what? 7 field goals they made?
With a
and when I heard the game ended, they're
team.
like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I still look at him like, 21. That's 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Nope. Commanders scored none touchdowns and beat the Giants. I'm just going to say this. The Browns need to go out and have a complete game next week.
They do. They do.
The Giants were able to score 3 points or 3 touchdowns, and they lost the game. This team is heartbroken, and that kind of loss doesn't lead to me to a team that's like, we're going to get them next week. It leads to a team that thinks, oh my God, we can't find a way to win. So, and by the way, I talked about it online with somebody today. What the Giants do bad
is everything.
Daniel Jones on their offense. Yeah, they're not great, and they're not great. But again, they scored three touchdowns on the Commanders, who we also play like a week later, 2 weeks later. But the Giants found a way to score touchdowns. Obviously, that has to stop. But I think against the Browns defense, Daniel Jones has the most fumbles in the league.
Yes.
And takes a ton of sacks. So what the Browns do best on defense will lead to what Daniel Jones does worst on offense. So this has to be a game where the Browns offense can come out and get it together and do their thing, and the Browns defense should dominate, and this should be a win next week where we talk about everything going well.
And I'll add to that, Daniel Jones, like you said, fumbled 46 times in 62 games. And he also has been sacked 6 times in 2 games, which is tied for the 10th most in the NFL. So our line can get to Daniel Jones and force fumbles, because Myles Garrett right now is the only player in the NFL with a sack and a forced fumble.
Right.
It's a storm coming down there at the stadium. It's going to be the defense. I think they're going to score. I think that this is a game where the defense actually gets some turnovers, because we have a lot of opportunities with the cornerbacks dropping interceptions. I think this is the moment the defense gets it together. Some interceptions, a pick 6, maybe a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And what's going to be great is maybe Watson doesn't feel pressure to feel like he needs to be great in order to win. Maybe he feels lax and comfortable, and this is where everything just comes together for him.
Yeah, and again, we may have at least one lineman back this week, which again, I'm not expecting miracles, but it would, I think, still be an upgrade to get one more lineman back on the edge. And I just think, like I said, as a team, this is your opportunity to go out there and just put together. I mean, obviously the Giants will give up field goals, so our special teams should be ready to go. And I just think that it's a good chance for your offense to go against a defense that probably can't contend with them and find their rhythm. I expect a bounce back month by Amari. I don't think he stays the way he is. You mentioned Zadarius Smith earlier. I think this is a chance to talk to these guys and say, "Hey, let's get out there and let's turn this around."
Oh, we got our typical YouTube guy here. Growl says Watson is only comfy in massage parlors. I can't even believe I read that. But anyways,
Boo, boo.
Massage jokes, blood.
Come with something original.
yeah, guys living in 3 years ago still. Anyways,
James Frake said that the Pittsburgh would not beat the Chargers. I would not bet that. Strip sack, 10 sacks this game coming up from James Frake. I agree with all that.
Chargers have been tough so far. They're
Yeah.
did
they're
you guys
playing
watch
pretty
that
balanced.
game last night?
Oh yeah.
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 So yeah, we got the Giants coming up this weekend. Join Angel and I Saturday to
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock in the morning pregame show for Saturday. Chad will not be with us next week because he's got important stuff to do, but he'll be here in spirit. Chad will be here in somewhat form.
Yeah, we'll see if I can put something together, but I'm doing a work thing. So I'm going to be like
It's all
fully
good.
taken for the whole week. It's not even like the work day and then I'm free. It's like it will be work and then some kind of session and then team building. And so I'll get to catch the game. So hopefully I'll get to like throw something in Saturday or Sunday for us, but I won't be able to make it for the show next week, which is disappointing. I will keep the beard growing though, so that I can try to play catch up.
Keep the winning streak alive.
Yes.
Yep.
That and make sure everybody likes, subscribe, follow our pages. We're on all social media. Just takes 2 seconds of your day and just like and subscribe to everything.
We'll make our day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We make your day. That's
Shout out to our sponsors, Doug White from Allstate. Okay, I got it right this week. And C&B Excavating. Thank you for sponsoring the show. That's it. That's all I have for you guys tonight. You guys
Follow along,
exhausted me.
add your thoughts, come on and chop it up with us a little bit.
It's only going to get better, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't get worse.
Yeah. With that being said, Super Bowl, Super Browns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace out, Sam.
We'll see y'all next week. Thank you for joining us.